Hi, Noel. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. Figure I'd talk to people rather than design PC boards.
We'll see who
How are,
shows up today.
well, yeah, you put oven coffee in there, and so that means people will show up.
Yep. Uh, this is the seventh one. So first two, I had one person, and then like the third one, I had six people, five people. So, and it's been four or five people every time. Let's see who shows up today.
Well, yeah, you put oven coffee.
Oh,
I gotta take care of something here. Not sure why I got two things going here.
ones. Do you have did you open the LinkedIn live stream?
That could be.
That sounds like the delay.
Yeah. Okay, I closed that one down.
I have it open too because I'm making sure it's still working. But
Yeah, but it's coming through a different set of speakers. It's like, oh, how do I turn that off? Because the Zoom meetings always come through these speakers.
gotcha.
So you're on the East Coast?
Yeah, outside of Orlando, or yeah, outside Orlando.
Okay, yeah, I'm outside Seattle.
Okay, cool. It's midday for you then.
Yeah, I pretty much got all my stuff going. I'm in an accelerator and setting up my data room. So um,
Cool. Hey, Steven.
Hello.
The LinkedIn Live is working at the moment.
Oh, we're live. That's good to know. I will watch my mouth.
And Noel even proved it because the delayed audio from it kicked up on his speakers on a different set of speakers. And I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
no, that sounds like the LinkedIn Live delay.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna lie. I said this to the other co-founder of our company. I was like, it's good that I have to keep reminding myself it's live because I will tend to just like not self-censor very well, no matter what it is. So
I,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not very good at self censorship. So,
Yeah, you get what you get, but
right.
sometimes it's like, yeah, sorry, that wasn't directed at you, and that wasn't directed at you. Like that whole, if you think this song is about you, you're probably wrong. But sometimes we say stuff. Yeah. That's the fun, but it's like that people come for the danger, right? It's kind of like a band, like you never know what's gonna happen. But
Right. That's it.
anyway,
Oh,
how's your week? How are things? Hi, Noel.
hello. Yeah, I'm
just starting. My week is just starting. It has been a slow day, slow like getting my brain focused and figure out what's going on day. I'm like my 1 o'clock wasn't happening, so that meant I didn't have to get started for that. And then it was this and figuring out how to get the recordings working. I spent last week working on the recordings, and they were not as good as I'd hoped they'd be.
Yeah,
Zoom
the
defaults.
ones that weren't live, the ones from last week didn't
Yeah.
really turn out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the Zoom's default recording for videos is very, if you record to cloud, it turns out they record like 320p.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like broadcast. It's just like for meeting. It's just for the AI actually.
Yeah. So if I record locally, it records at least at the highest resolution of whatever may be streamed in. So that might be my camera or someone else's camera or a screen share. But so it took a while to experiment around that, figure out how it works.
Yeah. There's a I don't know if you both get this, but there's tons of people that are like, man, you got to just make a video of what you're saying or make this demo and the level of production is like, you see these streamers, like I like what, like people like Jeff Geerling or Techno Tim. I mean, or even, level one text. These folks have some serious, they probably started off, I mean, you can look at old videos of even Linus, but they started off whatever, like at their bedrooms or whatever.
Sure.
But the level of production that people sort of expect is pretty high. And I always have to be like, look, we don't, I don't have time to do, I can do like a desktop recording with some voiceover or some notes. And then I mean, you should really pay someone to make this. Like,
well, I I make videos. I got about 200 of them
Yeah.
because my product is smoke measurement and no one understands it.
Right.
Uh, so I haven't been making very many lately because I've been working on other things. However, I got this voice, I got this mic, I have reasonable editing skills, and if I can put a story together and communicate some information, I'm working with a team at Berkeley, and some of the interns need to know how to take apart my equipment and put it back together right. So I make videos, basically educational videos. But sometimes I just have to teach people the science of small particle measurement.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, even just me doing like a 20-minute demo, it's like the amount of things that you can, if you're really going over it with like a security lens, like seeing IPs and even like the book, you open a browser, it's like you almost need a demoing machine. Like usually I have to do it for my machine and I don't even want to go make another one, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's a lot of it's just like, who's going to go back over this 4-hour session and blur things out? And you know what I mean? It's,
You
yeah,
really have to, especially if for something long, because even in like a 15-minute recording, I have trouble if I'm screen sharing. I have trouble not forgetting to not switch over to my email client, and just we're our careers are so interrupt driven that we're used to just checking to know what's going on and switch over to Slack, respond to something on Slack while I'm talking to someone. I mean, this is
My
wait,
videos tend to be less than 5 minutes. If you're going over 5 minutes, you lost me.
yeah. What? No conversation can happen in less than 4 hours. Come on, Noel. Like,
That's
I'm
a
like,
conversation. It's not a monologue.
yeah,
right. It's
yeah,
not edited.
yeah. So do you do fractional work, Noel? But that sounds really interesting. The measurement of small things. Yeah,
Well, I I don't know if I'm a fractional person, but I own my company and I have to do fractional this. I may have to bring in a fractional that. And mainly it's just I like talking to people rather than making PC boards.
Fair enough.
yeah, that's a thing.
A lot of the part of being a fractional that fractionals don't think about when they start out is the business part and all of the things that go into running the business, which means you might need to bring in other people to help out because you're busy doing your work. You are the product.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's I haven't found someone I trust to bring on yet, but there's a couple people uh l- orbiting around me that want to work with me that, hey, maybe I can trust this person. See, I'm a former fire investigator with a PI license, and so my trust issues are fairly if you ever all fire investigators are advocates. Let me put it that way. I'm no longer a fire investigator.
yeah, it's tough. Especially like I mean, when I was thinking about not going and just getting a job and doing whatever, I mean, it started more like services, but definitely like fractional was sort of something people started to say. I learned that from actually we have on and off had a fractional finance person, but he's taken off, and I don't know if I can afford him anymore. But like that was the first time I heard about it. But it's that whole when you think about doing business, I was like, there's no way I'm doing this without a business person or operations. And luckily that's the other co-founder. And I mean, that's 50%. We wouldn't do any of this without the other person. If you're not invoicing, doesn't matter what you're saying technically. I mean, that's really, and I think that, but everyone, I'm sure people do this to you too. Like people just think I'm running the whole thing I'm like, no, not at all. Like the reason I can talk like 4 hours about information theory is because I don't do our invoicing and thinks someone else is doing that, right? Because there's a lot. Yeah, it does. Business is very different and accounting and all.
Yep.
Basically, what I do is it's called a transmissometer. I project a very stable light source through, and I look at the small changes in the brightness and the color. And I got two PhDs at University of Berkeley that agree with me on one side, but don't say anything on the other side.
Is it kind of like you're not doing like the split stuff, like the split, what is it called? Split thought. Like
Interference.
this isn't like quantum stuff, is it? Like
Um,
what?
well, I can explain it in a nutshell. Small up, 500 nanometers is a green light. If a particle like a PM 2.5 particle is 2,500 nanometers, That's going to block all the frequencies of light, the red, the green, the blue. It blocks them all equally. However, if the particles are smaller than 500 nanometers, and believe me, that's small. 500 nanometers is 500 billionths of a meter. It preferentially scatters off the blue light, shifting the color, the peak wavelengths to the red just a little bit.
Mm.
And that's where it's all theory on my part. The instrument does it fine, but the PhD's saying it doesn't tell us anything.
What is the sort of point of it to measure? Is that or it's general, like you're trying to figure that out?
Well, my patents are for measuring the opacity. So that's the greater than 500 nanometer, blocking all light, and it does quite well. I could put a backdrop up that shows that. Let me work on that a minute. The only graph they'll let me show. This one right here. All right, now I'll get out of the way. So this is my device, the orange line, on a pellet stove. So every time a pellet auger feeds pellets into the stove, it goes from about 2% to 12%. Now, Dr. Rapp has removed all the Y numbers because she gets criticized. But I'll tell you, it's between 2 and 15%. Then they're comparing it to this gray, which is a particle analyzer. The particle analyzer is way down in what's called a dilution tunnel. So they have to cool the gases down because they're hot. My device measures it hot, right as it comes out of the chimney. So I can measure it hot. I can measure it as good as an $11,000 particle analyzer, at least according to this graph. And then when they put the pellet stove in low mode, that's right about here, I'm still reading about 2 or 3% opacity. All right, so let's go over to this side over here. And this is the only graph they'll let me show. They presented this as the HPBA conference, Hearth Patio and Barbecue Association conference. This is a wood stove. It's a catalytic wood stove called a Blaze King Scirocco. And again, the y-axis here has been denumbered so she doesn't get in trouble criticizing another manufacturer. But the law is 20% opacity for 6 consecutive minutes. If you exceed that, they can fine you up to $1,000.
So the manufacturer.
So the 20%. No, the smoke police.
I mean, so who would get fined? The owner of the stove, operator of the stove?
Yeah, the operator of the stove. So the homeowner would get fined, and I have records of fines in certain areas like Spokane and there's Colorado. There's certain areas that get fined more than others. Not in our current administration, as far as I know. I haven't gotten any records. However, in the few years ago, I have records of people getting fined up to $1,500. So if it's illegal if it exceeds 20% per 6 consecutive minutes. Now this looks like about a half hour to me. So in the lab, this stove was putting out too much smoke. Now, when they put it in low mode, we're still putting out roughly 3 to 5% over here. So that I can't. It's hard for me to do it because one, the thing's not back here.
It's like backing up a truck with a trailer.
Yeah, it's working okay, but this is all data produced by the lab, and so it's third party. If I could bring all kinds of charts like that, but it's all me.
So
who would believe me?
When you said opacity, you mean that there's as the opacity gets higher, then it starts to be smoky, and that's where it starts to be like almost like the particles per whatever measure start to be dangerous. So it's like you're not measuring something getting more opaque. You're calculating smoke, basically, like something the air itself becoming less transparent.
Yes. So the legal metric for measuring smoke is opacity, and that's why I got my patents designed around that. But my patents basically say, well, we do something about it. So I make combustion air controllers to make the flames dance, make them look pretty. I love my wood stove. I'm a real fan of fire, and so is my pets. And
Yeah.
I want my
Old
wood
school.
stoves to be dancing flames. And the catalytic wood stoves, I don't think they do that. And the secondary wood stoves are what I buy, and the secondary wood stoves have great dancing flames if they're run properly. Now, they do get to a place where they're just pulls, but I think what we found during this whole thing was that pellet stoves strangely put out all kinds of fine particulate matter. Now, this kind of puts it out, but there's nothing in here that shows the color shift, because Dr. Rapp is not convinced the color shift is quantifiable. This is all quantifiable.
Mm.
Color shift is more of a theory. Because this is actually blocking light. The color shift is saying, well, there's these fine particles that are scattering preferentially the blue light.
I mean, and we see something that we could correlate to that when we see smoke in the atmosphere, in the sky. There, we can see color shifts of the sun from the sun based on how much smoke is in the air, right? And it doesn't have to be opaque where we're seeing smoke. We can see color shifts. Anybody who lives around large fires, has seen this behavior. So
I love it when you say that, because that's the example I use. But when I use that with Dr. Rapp, I get nothing back.
Is Dr. Rapp physicist?
Dr. Rapp is the head of the director of the National Science Lab. She's the one I worked with to get the proposal. I have absolute respect for Dr. Rapp. But sometimes I'm not sure she's in my court.
Right. But background-wise, is she physicist or like more like biologist? Like what?
She's a PhD. I don't know what her PhD's in.
Hey, Adam.
She's an emissions scientist. So she's working in solid fuel labs.
Right. Because that is like the sorry.
Yeah. And that's I would think it is physics, but I don't know her.
Right.
I just know she helps write a great proposal.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, like Davey, you're saying the color, I mean, even in some of the stuff I was looking at, like the Planck constant came from them studying that black body radiation, the color spectrums as you heat things, right? And so basically a lot of the color, the emitting stuff is very related. Yeah. What was that?
Stefan Boltzmann constant?
Yeah, the Boltzmann constants. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I'd lose all my students. Because they couldn't do that type of exponential
doing the math is, well, I like to say we don't do that anymore. We just write programs, but I don't know how many people agree with me. I can't tell, like I'm rationalizing, like, but I do believe that like some of the math, it's like dangerously physics that's fallen off. Like you have more people that believe what they're seeing on YouTube than want to go do that math anymore. And it ends up being that problem, which is, but writing program, I kind of like what Wolfram was saying. Like we write programs now to almost prove the math. Why even do it's not really, I don't know. I would say like it sounds like I'm rationalizing, not that I'm bad at math. It's just like it's a practice skill. You have to stay in it. But
what do you program in?
Whatever. Like
I'm currently programming in C++.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, whatever fits, right? It depends on what we're doing. But yeah, like the whole like, but that's a little bit more computate. We don't need to get into the details, and a lot of that's like the rote math that we have encoded in the adders and the multipliers and stuff. If you trust the sort of rules in the chips kind of thing, which I think it's one of those things like I think we trust it at this point, like right, like it's in the medical devices. So I don't know, but it's interesting to talk about these measurements like in your instrumentation and whether you're probably not writing out math, and even if you did, you still got to convert it to some kind of program or something, right, to get these graphs or something.
Well, all this was done by the university.
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
My device broadcasts out 20 numbers, and I can make I do my own graphs. This is the first time I've seen graphs that I like from the team. And this is the only one they'll let me show. So this is,
Cool.
for some reason they do hundreds of tests and they don't give me any data. They just say, why isn't it doing this?
You're the scientist.
So Adam, we've
Interesting.
been talking about smoke and opacity, and
I got that. Yeah.
yeah. How's the fractional hunt?
Steven's comment that he made last week unlocked something in me, and I continued to work on my website, which seems a little bit backwards, but it's helping me formulate my value prop.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I was talking to a friend at Starbucks, and I was saying, I got to get over this lead gen thing. Like, I got these contacts from this conference and I haven't reached out. We're going on 3 weeks now. And I sat down with Claude and I just said, all right, Claude, here's the deal. And I explained it. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I know that I need to do this work and I'm not. And Claude and I created a business development playbook this morning. And I reached out to 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have a 5th ready to go.
Awesome.
And I'm super happy. And if it's all because Steven gave that little,
don't give me too much credit. I'll start charging you.
and not that Steven and Claude are, on the same level because Steven's much higher, but Claude came up with a similar language, and it gave me a couple of options. I've got something in my project settings that it's like it gives me 3 options when it gives me stuff. And so Claude gave me 3 options and said, which one of these 3 sounds most authentic to you? And I was like, oh, actually, I think it's a combo of this one and this one.
Yeah. I
And
do
then
that
I
a
was
lot.
like, yeah,
Doing-
I'm super comfortable with sending that. So,
tell it to give me 3 options or 10 options. And depending on what I'm trying to do, 10 options is too much for something.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's good to get ideas if you're just looking for ideas,
yeah.
and then
And
start
then-
merging it together.
Yeah, we went in and it was like, can you give me the name and the context of one of the contacts? Like, what did you discuss? And so I told Claude, and then I gave it the company's website. It went out and did some research. And I was like, here's an opener. And I was like, oh, I really like this. And it was like, it gave me a practice one. It was like, do you want to try practicing yourself? And I was like, sure. And it came back and it was like, yeah, exactly what I would expect for an engineer to say. Let's just tweak it a little bit.
Right.
Oh, man.
That's a little too me. Wait a minute now.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, it basically said, let's soften that up a little bit. And I was like, this is what I wanted. Like,
Yeah.
I
It's really
feel
good for this.
unleashed.
It's really good for that, right? Like I said, but it can't write the thing, but it can help tune. And then like sort of the bar is raised, the table stakes of grammar, spelling, you know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
someone I can write the meat, like the meat of the message, but I'm bad at the like grammar and run on sentences. And so like that's nice that you can get that thing. Plus,
Yeah.
I think that's just a purely modern AI thing where you can get it to aggregate sort of ideas like that, right? Like
Yeah. And then I went through the first 3 contacts, and they were different. They were like, one would be more consulting, one would be more
Right.
coaching, and it was super
so
helpful.
cool. It's like, can I get one in the style of Van Gogh and one as Metallica, right? Like that's what it does. It's like that weird, almost like context.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call it, I guess, but like it's interesting how it can
Persona? I don't know what to call it either, but so anyway, over the last week, I kind of like, a friend of mine looked at my website, and then I was like, hey, do you want to test it? And they're like, sure. And the first thing they did was go to mobile, and Claude didn't build it for mobile. Honest to God, I had a mobile site running within an hour. I went to Claude in the terminal and I was like, hey, can you optimize this site for mobile, but make sure you don't break the, desktop version.
Let's just add some more CSS and there it goes.
And in an hour, I had a new, I had it mobile optimized, and I was like, oh my God, this really changes everything.
It does.
Four leads
It's a pair programmer for life.
Yeah, it is. If
I've
we
learned
can
more. I
keep
said to
fueling it.
someone, I've learned more about Git and tips and tricks by watching it work through stuff, and I'll like, what's that command? Like what did this do? Like I get the gist of it, but it's like at the detailed level, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then it spits me out examples, and I'm like, explain it to me like I'm 5, and it goes from 5 to,
Yep.
you know,
That's when you start to realize that when you get past the porcelain and you get into the plumbing, Git is just shit. It's just as shit on that side as it is on the on the on on the user interface side.
yeah,
You know, we work with it. It's powerful, but it is not. It is an interesting tool.
yeah,
It is shit.
yeah.
That's all it is.
I don't even think Linus would argue with that.
No, I don't-
Yeah.
we use it for a lot of things he never imagined we would.
I
Yeah,
have to tell when I'm mentoring people, like I do that, and it's like we do a ton of the GitHub, and it's like I just have to tell them like what's important is the human the collaboration and the chain and all that. The part like don't get hung up on the words and the commands and like how the user experience of it. Because and if you want a job, ultimately no one cares what you think about Git. Like they
yeah,
just you're gonna have to use it.
yeah,
So like yeah.
And we don't use, I mean, so much because of that centralization of of this decentralized tool that of
Yeah.
GitHub, right? GitHub and all the knockoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That centralization has changed how we use Git to where we don't use a lot of the features as designed anymore. And
Right.
so we're stretching them, abusing them, twisting them, or ignoring them.
yeah,
I mean, the whole point was that the three of us would be working on the same project and we actually sync to each other.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole decentralized was literally the whole point of it. And then
yeah,
what do we do next? Oh, centralize it, of
Yep.
course, right?
And then it turns out that we can just stand up a central copy, which is what everyone ended up finding they had to do anyway.
yeah,
They said, okay, we're going to designate a copy over here as the server, and we're going to sync to that. We're not going to sync to each other,
Mm,
except in like oddball cases, like, hey, we're exchanging a feature over here that we're working on together, which was kind of cool,
right.
but it really requires such a high level of understanding of the tool ecosystem that you don't see it happen in general development workflows. Just up the server, back down is set it up once.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in a lab thing, and I met a guy in it's called in lean gains. Or anyway, what it does is you set up a GitHub repository, and then you ask for some code changes, and it pulls from GitHub and then pushes it back up to GitHub with. And what I liked is it kept all the variables. That's my big thing with AI is I need this. Well, please leave the variables the
Leave
same.
the variables, leave the comments, please. Those things are
Yeah.
important. One of my system prompts is comments are code.
Yeah. But, and it didn't really work for me that well, but I think it would work for someone else. I got in loops where it would keep asking the same questions, and I just got
yeah,
frustrated. But I think his product is a good play because it did help. One, having a pulling something from GitHub with all the and keeping the context when you're rewriting and putting new features in was really golden for a little while there.
yeah.
I mean, I
I
have to
found
okay.
so I tried to do a website even like I'll say 2 months ago using Gemini, and I picked Gemini for no other reason than I picked Gemini. And it failed. It got me into loops, and I realized one night I was tackling something like at 11 p.m. and I did something and it went through, and then later on I was like 11:30 and I'm like, we already went through this type thing.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah,
late,
that's
and I was like,
frustrating.
maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe you know
Sure.
how like I don't know what your conversations with yourself are like, but didn't I already do this? Okay, I'll just do it a second time. And then by the time it went through it the third loop, I was like, no, I'm on to you, fucker.
You
I'm
know,
not doing this a third time. I'm going
having
to bed. It's
having
like,
done this
okay.
since the first public release of ChatGPT, um, and I've experimented with Gemini and spent a lot of time with code or with Claude, and still ChatGPT is still my primary, but they all do it, but they do it less now. We get right, and so, but that was super common initially. It very early, very fast. You just sit there, start iterating around the same problem over and over and again, and you go through the 5 steps, and you come back, and you're back to the same thing again. And not just code. There were a lot of things like that. It couldn't think very far. It couldn't get past that and would come up with the same answers. Today, we don't see it as often. We see a lot more variability within generations. So they're not always going to solve the problem, but at least there's more variability in the attempts.
Yeah. And I feel like it's almost like a little room and the ball bounces around. It like hits the wall and bounces back because in a very similar, I tried this was last night. I built a system I had some parts for a friend. And to test the CPU, I just put Olama on it, right? In a VM. Well, I tested, first I made a VM and then I put Olama in the VM and pulled down like a model. I think not a very big one, maybe the like 1 gig one or something. And I was like, I like how it like pegs the CPU, right? Whenever you ask it a question. So
Instead
I
of
was like,
using CPU burn, you're using something that actually is.
exactly. So I was like, this is kind of sick. So then I was like, write me a 1 hour long sci-fi story and tell me a 1 hour, and it just refused to do it. It kept bouncing. It would tell me a little bit of sci-fi. I was like, no. Then I would try to get it to count from like 0 to 10,000 and say a name of an animal each time or something. I couldn't get it. There's like, I think you bump up against these like invisible sort of like measures inside, right? Like I forget what they call them, but basically like it knows it can't go for an hour or something. I mean, but I was really surprised because how useful would that be to be like, can you just like make up a sci-fi story and then if it had a voice, you could like leave it on and like kids would just sit there and listen. I mean, I don't know, like, but yeah, so it didn't do that. And I was kind of surprised that I couldn't get it to basically do anything. It's very prompt based, but it won't just sit there and generate.
Right. And the trick was early on, and when you're using, Olama, you're getting a less mature toolkit,
Yeah, that was
especially
just
with
to
the
get the
smaller
model.
models, right?
Right, yeah,
And
yeah.
so the trick was just often to just say continue. And we ended up building browser extensions to just automatically inject continue,
Yeah.
right, when it would truncate. And and sometimes you need a more explicit continues, but usually, as long as it stayed in the conversation context, right? Once it pushed out of context, then you start to lose track. But like if you wanted that 1 hour story and it's going to give you 500 words at a time, and you say continue, it should it know what's going on and continue to follow it. But that doesn't mean that each generation will follow each other.
Yeah, I think it's cool though. I would pay for that anyway, right? Like that's pretty cool. Especially if you're doing it local. Like it's my resources, so who cares,
Context
right?
windows seems to be getting larger too.
They are for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, ever
But
since
it's by size, right? Yeah, it's the size of the files literally are starting to translate into the size of the model. I mean,
it
literally, right?
doesn't mean that they're still any good at following what's in it.
Oh my gosh.
As you get further down in the context window, you keep having to remind it and reprompt it of what's further back and say, okay, now look, we're talking about this. You just lost context.
Yeah.
I'll write something up, and then I'll put it in one of the models and have it do it. I'll show both to my wife, and to my disappointment, she usually likes the one that's written by the model. But I'll paste it into the model but because it puts phrases in that I don't normally write with.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Really want me to say that? That takes extra words to type that.
Yeah. The guy who wrote Bach, Gödel, Escher, the book, The Golden Braid. What's his name? Hausfender, or I forget his name. But he wrote that famous kind of math formal systems book. It's called like Gödel, Bach, Escher, right, or something like that.
Okay.
Someone did an update with the AI where they had him like, oh, this is what he would have wrote. And he's like, no, I would have. Not even close. Like, this is the word. Like, he was so upset at what it was filling in. He's like, I don't talk this way. Like, yeah, but it sounded everybody else was like, I don't know. He was really upset about it.
It worked for other people.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what
I
would
mean-
happen if all your stuff ran through an editor who rewrote everything for you.
Yeah. I'm really struggling to figure out what's the line, because I wrote articles in my early career and I sent one to an editor and they edited it and they wrote and sent it back, and I was like, well, this isn't what I wrote. Like this does not sound like me. Like
Right.
you've edited my grammar and my like spelling, not so much, but you've edited it to a point where I'm like,
Yeah.
doesn't sound like I wrote it.
Tone and style is important, but and so trying to keep it in your voice, in your tone and style is a real
Yeah.
challenge. I mean, even for us when we do it ourselves, right? Because if we sit down and we write something and then we say, well, I want to make this something presentable for a larger audience and not just an email to somebody that I already know and who's going to forgive me for everything I said and all of the shits that I dropped in and the fuck bombs that I put in, right? And I have to go back and clean it up and I edit it. And, and I start to, even myself, I start to take my own voice out of it, my own style out of it.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's
Because
literally
we've been taught intentionally or just by absorption, right? Or osmosis, if we ask Garfield, then then
I had
the-
that poster on my wall.
and of course that's diffusion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
you're basically saying, I mean, this is the thing. The same thing happens with the vegetables. Like the one that looks amazing, those cucumbers, carrots, and bell peppers at the store, they look like the imagined perfect one. And there's like no nutrition. It's getting worse and full of the
Yeah.
stuff. But like
But they're the ones
literally,
that
I think
sell.
there is. So there's a little bit of that. Like I do this on LinkedIn too. Like there's a level of spice that the audience, it's everyone, these other observers, right? You don't want to alienate them. But also sometimes people are here for the spiciness, right? Like this is the
Yeah.
thing. But some of us, like, I don't want to get censored just because, like you said, like the way we talk, or I mean, depending on where some of, like the whole point of like a lot of music genres is their art in general. Sometimes is shocking and all that. And so you're trying to keep that voice or that what you're trying to say, but pretty much like if you're trying to write a business email, that's kind of, I think that's all I've realized in my whole entire life is in order to, what they mean by, well, let's make this presentable is just take all of you out of it for
Yep.
all of
Yeah.
you
if
specifically.
we make it
Right.
generic, it's not going to offend anybody.
Right. It's all about that. But
Downside, as we speak about being fractionals and being soloists where we are the product,
right.
You and your style and your tone and your flavor is actually really important, because when you're on the job doing the work, right, you're going to be dropping F-bombs and talking about shit and all these things, right?
The craziest shit they've ever heard about.
Exactly,
Sometimes.
right? And so if you remove all of it from the presentation that you give up front, then they're going to not have bought the thing that they thought they were going to get.
They're gonna be shocked. Yeah.
Being
yeah,
authentically you
literally. Yeah.
means that you're going to attract the customers who want you authentically.
Yeah.
They're going to say, okay, I don't care about any of that. I recognize that this person's able to talk about these things this way intelligently. And I echo that, right? We want those customers that
That's what they want.
feel us.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I would go into when I worked for a chef and we'd roll in, or even Hashi, like you roll into like these corporate environments. There was one customer that was literally like, this dude looks like the change we want here. Like,
Yes.
this is just, you represent the change, the transformation in general. I was like, yeah, like from like, let's like, Target had that problem as the retailer where, they basically, you couldn't go on the IT campus unless you had a jacket and tie or some stuff. And I remember there were our account, and that like one ex-employee was like, man, they really would love your help over there, but we can't send you. It was only like that guy could go, right? And then they had that huge outage where like they got hacked, like that whole big deal security problem. Man, it was like they're like, we got to change our culture, and they did. And I was one of the first people on site, like right then. And but it is true, like you might, and they say that about security. It's like some of the best security engineers are really wild people, right? Like that, like it doesn't, just as personal things, right? We can't hire everybody just like it's an idealized 1950s,
Right.
But so I agree, but it's like, yeah, sometimes it helps because you're the change they want, and the more wild I should wear a top hat and all kinds of weird stuff just to you could just it represents that openness to new ideas, right? There's
Right.
there's sort of a vibe to the consulting that you can't, it makes you memorable, it makes you have some authority. They are literally paying you for your opinion, right?
Right.
Not and then when they're like, I disagree, I'm like, oh, that costs more than like if you want to disagree and then I accept that, that's really expensive. Right?
If you want to convince me, now wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah, the cheapest thing in the world for consulting is going in. There's always some other engineer that works there that has said everything you're saying, but they ignore him. Oh, Bob's
Oh,
just
100%.
angry. Bob's never going to be happy. Bob thinks we should use Git here, whatever, And then you come in and you're like, y'all should use Git. They're like, oh, here's your money. And then Bob's like,
that's what I do. That's my job, right?
Yeah,
Is I
that's
come
all
in
our
and
job.
I talk to all the people that are there, and I want to hear all the things that no one's listening anymore.
They're just
And
not
if-
listening to each other.
And
That's
if
all
I
it is.
just say those things, I'm golden because those people because I talked to them about it. I'm not coming in and saying we should use Git without talking to the people who said they use Git, right? I mean, sampling the audience, right? I can't talk to everybody all the time. But then they're like, hey, yeah, see, they see now somebody coming in from the outside who's being paid for that expert
You're
opinion
like,
and saying
oh,
the
I'm
same thing.
here.
And they're like,
Yeah.
we're on board. We want this person to help us. We're going to listen. We're going to enable. We're going to support this person instead of oh my God, we have the outsider. We have to fight them.
Yeah. This is the law of consulting, which is that's pretty much all it is. To roll in, tell them authoritatively, they pay you to come tell them to listen to the one person who is right. And Dave, if you can't, a lot of times I would try to, at lunch that first day, you go and try to tell that person, I'm here to do this. I think you're right. What we need to do is just get everyone on that page. And if that's all I'm doing. And then at the end of the day, when the boss says like, did we get our money's worth or whatever? It's like, the whole point is also we step back and make them look successful. Cause the other hardest part, especially for fractional with CEO, or we were talking a little about it. If there's already a CTO and you're fractional,
Right.
that trick is like sometimes they just fight you and you're like, look, you have to explain to them, I'm here. I don't work here. I'm just paid to help you. Take everything I'm doing and make yourself look good. Like I'll even go to the meeting and be like, you did all of this. Like, and then we disappear and we make them, I think that's a lot of times all they need is just like, like they need to just take credit for it. But man, you've probably seen this where they fight you almost against their own interests. You're like, why are you fighting? Like, this is going to make your whole team look good. Well, it's just new. I don't know. You just said some weird things, You said local develop. We can't remove the security from the laptops. We can't have VMs on our laptops.
That risk, it's true, right? That sometimes they reverse the thing that they know and the thing that they've been talking about fighting for because they get to the point, and I mean, I'm guilty of this too, right? You get to the point where you've fought it so hard that you've forgotten why.
Yep.
And you're looking at it from the insider view, and you can only see why not.
Yeah, just to want to win. It's just that like Lord of the Flies, like they forget even why, right? But you come in and you run, hey, you're just doing computer stuff over here, and it makes sense. But like the politics and and if you worked in enterprise, like I have, like actually worked there, not consulting, it's like the only success measure was how many VPs of whatever directors you can get through.
Right.
We used to this sounds really bad, but I used to kind of brag about the scalps I got from the customers. Like what mid-level manager did you defeat to enable them to use like the tool or to like allow them sudo on the laptop, or, you know what I mean? Like it was literally like that stakes because they all these little tribal factions going on and you come in as the stranger saying something completely different. I think I feel like this is a tradition, right? Like this is a thing like that,
I held this up earlier. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Weinberg, but he's written a ton of great stuff, and he has these little laws. They're great, but one of the things he says is something David was just where you both were just saying is like they always tell you the problem in the first 5 minutes. So when you go in and you do your little, chat, they always tell you, right? Somebody tells you in the first 5 minutes, and then you're like, that's the thing, right?
That's it.
And everybody knows it. And this one person that's the antagonist has been saying it, and they don't want to listen because they don't like the personality. And it's
This is the
Yeah.
key. What I would do, and you could do different things, but what I've made my sort of like my personal, it's not like a brand, but like what I decided was, you're right. You see it within 5 minutes, you kind of know it, maybe even like 30 minutes, hear about their thing. From then, sometimes you're there 6 months or a week or even 2 hours. That's when I shift and try to teach. Like that's where you immediately know, and this is sort of like an insider trick, right? Like the minute you know and you feel like you got it, you could be wrong, which means they don't like you. But if you're right and you got it, what you do is you wrap that in some kind of teaching. And almost every time, because like me and David said, that I'm sort of coming from the DevOps side or like transformation, IT modernization. Immediately, like once you see that, then I would frame immediately into maturity model or like, can we see some stuff or while I'm here? And like, honestly, it starts to be about things like source control and pipelines and testing. I mean, basically you just start teaching two things. My friend Ken told me, he said, you got to show them what good looks like and then discuss the capabilities involved in getting there. And this
Yeah.
is the rest, right? And the
Yep.
rest is just being cool and maybe like working on some stuff and hanging out and getting to know them. But like you do usually know what's wrong. There's always like angry manager brought you in, one guy who's right, bunch of people yelling at each other, and you're like, what's going on? This
Yeah.
is
I was
good.
brought in on at a fintech that had an Android and a iOS SDK, and they both had config files, and one had a Boolean value set to true, and the other one had the same Boolean value set to false. And it was because the two leads of the teams couldn't agree. Now, thankfully, they were gone by the time I got there, but that was the level of dysfunction that they had.
And then the team was not resolving it, even though the resolution was easy.
Yeah.
Nobody was saying, well, I can make this change.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the argument was still in the conversational context,
Yeah.
right? The AI in our heads wouldn't make the decision because we still remember why we didn't make the decision.
You just don't want to. People want to win. It's an innate thing in our brains. But and like you said, what's really crazy is I was part of that. From maybe 2010, maybe earlier to like 2015, where literally every single big company in the world was starting to adopt pipelines and code and all this stuff. And you took like it was one thing to say we're moving to the cloud. I was like, you're moving to all this intro, like political fighting on every single team, move to the source control tools, honestly. The only way we could solve this sometimes was put this like face. I told people explicitly, I'm going to come in and put a faceless Leviathan called the pipeline. And this is going to we're going to blame everything on the pipeline. It was like setting up a totem, right? And it's all that thing's fault. We don't need to fight with each other. If you want to change it, that will have a discussion, but ultimately it's whatever the pipeline, like, it's like literally they needed this, like,
codified decisions by enforce it's fiat enforcement by code. They say, like, once we've written it, we can change it. It's just going to take effort. In the meantime, if you're not ready to make that effort, it's done. It either goes or it doesn't.
The lazy sniping where people are just like, no, and then or like, we need VP approval and the VP's always on vacation, like this kind of stuff. The creating this like third party, very Hobbesian Leviathan that no one wants to mess with, that no one understands. Don't touch the Jenkins. Don't even look at it. Don't click, like this is just trust it. Really helps with these things. But I don't think humans were ready for the office to move to the source control and the physical computers to move to the somewhere else, right? Like it's weird for them, and you can get why it made things worse, like for the interhuman or the whatever socio-technical problems, it made it worse. And so you end up almost being like a therapist about infrastructure and stuff, because it's just it's hard, but nothing worse than a bunch of fighting in the pull requests or whatever. We got enough of that in the open source world, right? Like this is
I had a guy. I can't say too much if this is going to be posted publicly, but I had a guy,
we got to make him.
I had a guy that's he was involved in the open source library for a very important programming language for blockchain. And watching him and another guy go back and forth on a PR and what they were sniping each other about, and I was just like, I want to automate you with a very tiny shell script. Like this is ridiculous, guys, that I'm having to mediate between two guys who are making way more money than me. It's like, Are you serious? Like, are we really? This is where we're at? Like, I'm gonna automate you and take your salary.
They've proven that you can prove that, like, if we just put it to a coin flip, I mean, everything's just subjective. So, like, literally, we don't even need AI. We should make a decision, like the government, it provides services and makes decisions. That's it. So we make this AI for these technical teams that just like, all right, put in the one side and put in the other. And just 50-50 flip a coin and pick one green and move on. I mean, literally, that's what we need. And the less that's a human, like, because we don't like not getting what we want, right?
Yep.
Like, I mean, we really don't.
Misses me because when two people say something, to me, usually one of them clearly has the answer. But if they're both equal, then you flip the coin.
Yeah. But I mean, you get two people, that's like 8 opinions, right? Like, I mean, I've had people strongly, like literally like yelling mad. And then 2 minutes later, they were so mad that they flipped in the middle of their argument and started saying the other thing. And you're
I
like,
feel called
this
out.
person just likes yelling. Right? Like,
Oh, they must be engineers.
yeah. I mean, this is the shit, right?
It's not always.
Engineers, the engineers I worked with really simply like to argue.
The architect is what the corporate enterprise
Yeah.
architect was who I mean, I
Enterprise
had sales
architect.
teams that were like, come with me to this account because I need you to go and engage with the guy like David who works there, who's just curmudgeony though, and like blocking everything. I need you to go deal with them. And I'm like, oh, I love it. That's my favorite. I go in and I say something controversial like, wait, why are you using Emacs and then you just nerd snipe them. And then we go off, yell at each other. And then sales can talk to leadership and close the deal. Like literally, they just needed me to like fight, like kind of spar with that person and get their
interfering.
attention. Because when you're doing trainings, there's always that person like, well, why'd you decide? I'm like, man, I didn't write this song. So you got to get them, you can just get them out of the room kind of thing and go do, which is great. Right. But like these folks sort of just hold up. It's like the stapler guy in Office Space. They can hold up the whole company.
Yeah.
Whereas I really think, to Noel's point, like be respectful, but I think just like a CEO is just a coin flipping algorithm that makes sure your paychecks still get there is not
And being
a
willing
bad
to
move.
flip the coin again, right? As long as you're willing to flip the coin again later.
Yeah.
It's when you're stuck. When you say, well, we
Yeah.
flipped the coin and it was heads and we're just never going to change it. No.
Everyone,
When you look around and say that heads isn't working, let's flip the coin. Do we get heads again?
Yeah.
Let's keep trying it. You get tails?
Yeah.
We'll do that. Let's do that.
this is the This is the
changing.
feedback loop. This is the
Yes.
GPS I mean, the CEO's role is literally to do this. And if you talk to a good CEO or even, CTO on the technical side, I've had people that were really good say, look, I just needed to answer and I didn't know any better, but we need to move on. And then we keep iterating. But that is literally sometimes you just need to make a decision.
Right.
And there is no right one because no one knows.
Set a timer, argue for 15 minutes, and at 15 minutes, make a call.
Yeah.
And
Thunderdome.
somebody has to make the call. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
And that's where the position comes in to say, I'm making the call, I'm taking the fall.
Yeah.
We'll go with this.
Yeah. Because if you're arguing that somehow like the two ideas enter, one idea leaves, like Thunderdome on this, you're arguing against that you're going to somehow I think we end up arguing emotionally about just the nature of uncertainty. And no one actually knows. It's uncomputable. You're not going to be able to compute it. Yeah. So what? Google, has been successful with certain tech. Are we, like this kind of stuff is completely uncertain. But what's certain is if
there
you
we
don't
go. Let's
decide.
start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Microservices.
Yeah.
I'm a 10-person startup. We should use microservices because
Right.
Google.
And we
Yeah.
should have 10 microservices if we're a 10-person startup. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I said this. I said it's
but
like
it's okay
having a
because
meeting.
we have domain of responsibility.
Oh
for
god,
one, we're good. We got 10 people.
I say this all the time. Like, let's have a meeting about 2-week sprint. How we're gonna set the office thermostat. And someone's like, "Well, what do we do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Just set it like Google did 2 years ago, right?" like this is basically what people do this all the time, and it's like, but at least that's a decision. I think David's right. Like, if we can get this is another thing, like fractional CTO is to come in, provide unblocking in this way, and then I think it's safe to do the feedback loop. You really want to do this like error control through negative feedback. Like you really gotta, that is almost the role. Just, it doesn't matter. Just do something right now and then let's monitor it and then see, and then are we making the pie go higher, right? That's it.
I was at a session at CTO CraftCon. I don't know if I mentioned it already. This woman talked about how your team deals with conflict is actually what drives your culture. And she's not even in tech. She's like she's got a PhD in sports management, but the way that she talked about it, I don't know if it's just my personality, but it really resonated with me because I was like, I've seen so many teams tank because of the passive aggressiveness, the stalling, the way they deal with conflict. And I had been reading a book about
Because none of
collaboration.
this is about tech. This is about
Yeah,
this is all
right.
about humans.
Right, exactly. And I was like, oh wow, like I've had those thoughts around in my head because I'm usually the one that comes in and like you guys, I see it. And then I'm like, well, if you guys can't make a grown up decision, I don't say it flippantly, but I'm like, if you can't make a grown up decision, like I am more than capable of carrying that burden for you. Um, I remember I was building the robot for neurosurgery and we put this monitor on it and the guy who was the architect got really upset. It looked a little etch a sketchy on a $1 million robot, but the UI developed like he didn't like it, and he really got upset. And I was like, well, why don't we give it to your front end developer, and we'll have him do a side by side evaluation of this monitor over that monitor. And I tried not to let the other guy, the UI developer, know which one the guy preferred. It was hard. And he picked the one that we had gone with. And if he had picked the other one, there would have been rework and the schedule would have been delayed and there were real implications because it was a hardware product. But I had to get them in a room and let them hash it out and say at the end, like this, we're going to go with whatever the decision is.
And you can always say, hey, look, okay, we know the monitor looks janky. It's an etch a sketch hanging up there. But if this is successful, we will let you work with the industrial designer that will come up with the next integrated display.
You can tell
So
Dave's really good at this. He's just like
the Firefly's
resolve.
note taker put up the meeting, and I'm noticing I'm not in there at all.
Huh. Did you
It's
opt
in
out
the,
of global
no, it's in the chat. It's in the chat.
It's action items. So
Yeah.
I guess
I don't have any.
Yeah,
I don't have any of those.
I can't. I haven't figured out how to turn that off yet. I don't find it useful. I do find that meeting is
Well, it looks like it's useful for Adam.
Yeah, there's your to-do list,
I have
Adam.
a lot
See
of
you
work
next
to
week. Yeah.
But it just persists in the chat and disappears. So,
Okay.
but Fireflies is very useful for me because I get the transcripts and transcripts have names associated with them properly. And when it's 2 people, it's no big deal. When there's 6, 8 people, 20 people on a call. Yeah, because Zoom's transcripts do not. Hey, Zoom, if you're listening, and I know you're not, your transcripts need names on them.
Yeah. Now this was, watch a bunch of fractional CTOs try to reinvent government. Is all we did here, which is like, right? Like we got to accept the outcome of this judgment. Like this is basically like the same. I realized that. Like I talked to someone else, like like the guy who's like, man, my wife buys these books, and we were thinking about putting them in a place where people could borrow them. You're like, oh, like a library. I was like, man, there's this way where you get them to agree to decisions, and they're like, you mean government? I'm like, oh, you're right. You're right. This is all it is. Companies need these things. So
Companies are with people, and people tend to have baggage.
yeah,
Yep.
and
That's my experience.
can't get anything done without some agreement.
And
right?
team dynamics kick in as soon as you put 2 personalities in a room, even if they're in one head.
Yeah, 2 personalities, 2 people, 9 personalities. I just
Right.
keep making the number bigger.
You've worked with the teams I've worked with.
Yeah. Just take whatever it is and power of 2.
You're in the 3D design space. You create drawings, 2D drawings and stuff like that?
I do.
Yeah.
I make all my parts. I fabricate all my parts. I write all my software. I do my marketing. I shouldn't be doing marketing. I'm just not. I'm a fact person. And I write all my code, and I do all the science.
Thanks, Stephen.
I met a guy at CTO CraftCon that is doing a specialized AI to take a 3D model and generate 2D drawings that are annotated.
Okay.
And having been on the medical robot, I was in the change order process. So I learned how to look at an engineering drawing and figure out, is it overspec'd or underspec'd, or are we missing anything that would cause an audit issue? So I thought maybe you might be interested in it, but I don't know to what level you're doing stuff.
I use Fusion 360 to make 3D parts, and I use them on my CNC router. I'm starting to work on making PCBs because you know here's one of my devices here. I need PC boards for these things. This
Yeah,
one
yeah.
is a hydrometeor scanner, but hydrometeors are hail, uh, rain, and it's any meteors coming out of the sky that are water,
Yeah.
snow. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. You must be a subscriber to Make Magazine then.
I think I have Make magazines. I think I've canceled all my magazine subscriptions. I liked I Make magazine for many years. I had it,
Yeah.
uh, but I don't think I'm subscribing any. I remember I subscribed to Popular Science,
Yeah.
Popular Mechanics. Um, Make magazine was a good one. Wired magazine was a good one, but I'm not sure there's as many magazines in production as there used to be.
Yeah. Make went through a revamp. I still get the paper copy of it, but
Okay, I'm
I'm
glad
in
there's still.
Canada and I get it really late. Sometimes it's even on like there's the local drugstore has it before I get my subscription in the mail.
This was my favorite Makers magazine ever.
Oh, nice.
Midnight engineering. Well, so what is midnight engineering? Because I remember fire engineering from the fire services.
I mean, essentially, it's that concept of, you know, what you're working on in the middle of the night instead of work.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right?
Because
It's your side project. This was a magazine from the mid-90s.
because I solve a lot of my problems as I'm falling asleep or waking up. It's like, oh, but if I could just make it to my desk with that knowledge.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used to sleep at one point, I used to sleep with a notepad beside the bed because of that.
But the thing is, a lot of my solutions are this three-dimensional thing of how things fit together or how things work together that I can't draw. I
Yeah.
can't, sometimes it's programming and ramping up a fan because I control my fire by patterns. Like think of it as low frequency music to
Sure.
the fire.
Yeah.
It's so low frequency you can't hear it, there's very little rhythm to it. So I don't call it music, but people understand when I say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm in a mode right now where I can't really make fire. I'd bake myself out of my office, so I have to. You know, I'm kind of waiting for what's happening. I have to write a report with Dr. Rapp, and the problem is she can't have any opinions. She's been cautioned by her bosses, not her bosses is the Department of Energy, not to have any opinions. And I had a great experience with her writing the proposal and that got accepted, and I complimented her on that. She passed it off as, well, I guess my PhD has value. But I knew better.
We should probably start wrapping up. Anything else before we call it?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Adam, I look forward to hearing from how your outreach,
Yeah, thanks.
because these are warm contacts. These aren't this isn't cold outreach.
No, this is yeah. I've faced the fear. We'll see how it goes.
3 weeks, they getting cold.
In 3 weeks, we hope it's still running.
Lukewarm, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. We'll see you
Cool,
later.
All
man.
right. Have a good day, guys. Thanks for meeting.
Bye.
Bye.